Welcome back to the weekly politics show with myself, Councillor Puru, and co-host Councillor Andrew Ridge. So in this section, we're going to talk about the Liveable Streets drama, kind of ish, the ongoing drama. So before last week, we said we were going to do a call-in, and then we were all preparing for the call-in, and then we got an email saying for technical reasons we can't accept your call-in. Andrew, do you want to just update the listeners as to what happened with the call-in? Because you were you were taking a lead on this. So what happened?
So last Tuesday, we sort of wrote the first draft of a call-in and shared it pretty much immediately with Tower Hamlets Council so they could see what we were working on. And then we sort of made an update on Thursday morning. And then they sort of asked more questions. So in the end, we sort of ended up writing 11 pages worth of information and answering their questions. And then sort of late on Tuesday, we got the email that basically said the call-in was rejected, which really surprised me because we kind of raised 4 points and I kind of half expected to lose 2 of them, but we would still have the other 2. And I think part of the problem is, the sort of council officers who took the decision were very legalistic and kind of like looking at what was sort of technically agreed in the cabinet meeting last November, and not listening to actually what Mayor John Biggs actually said last November. So in effect, what happened was we had a bunch of decisions made, some last November, some March. And last November, to be fair to the mayor, he did say he wanted to listen again, and he was organising more consultation events. So we didn't think these decisions were completely final. But the council now, in effect, saying, yes, those decisions were final, even though the equality impact assessment was completely rewritten and various other things. So, and what was interesting, it was the first time that opposition councillors have been involved in a call-in since November 2017, which is quite a long time ago. And the first time we try and do one, it gets rejected, which doesn't look good. And what we were trying to do with the call-in was actually to improve it. It wasn't about, stopping it or reversing it. It was just saying, here it is, let's add some stuff to it to make it better. And then it was rejected. And it was just discussed last night at the overview and scrutiny meeting, because we actually did another call-in on another issue where actually the committee voted unanimously that we'd recommend to the mayor and to cabinet that they relook again at the closure of the daycare centres. And we did debate this, and I know other councillors on the overview scrutiny committee were also disappointed in the officer decision, because actually I think they would have been interested in having this discussion.
Okay, so but in the email that we got, they were talking about some kind of review, like a vague term, kind of. It's like, your points are valid, we will take them on board, but nothing concrete. Do you want to just explain what we received in return? It seemed like they kind of like accept our arguments but not accept the arguments or proposals.
Yeah, so that bit was really unclear. So I think from a practical point of view, one of the things I'm going to do is do an official complaint, because one of the really concerning things for me is that there were 2 important pieces of information not included in any of the cabinet reports. And one of them was the response of the emergency services to livable streets. And very simply, they like livable streets, they like safer streets, as do we all, but they have real issues about how the roads are actually closed. And it's been really interesting, even in the last couple of days, there's been lots of videos and pictures circulating on social media of emergency vehicles being blocked or not being able to turn the way they want to by roadblocks. So I think this is a real live issue, and for me, it's the most important issue. The second issue is slightly less urgent, but it's very clear that these bus gates generate a lot of money. So Wapping bus gate in just over a year generated £1.4 million. So if that were to happen in the Bow bus gates, that means that Bow bus gates are income generating and will basically pay for the whole scheme in perhaps 3 or 4 years. And that was a very important point. But, that number wasn't included in any of the cabinet reports. Again, I only got that information from a freedom of information request, which actually somebody else did. So for me, there's a particular concern about really important information not being included in cabinet reports. And we only find out about it either because we or other people are doing FOIs. And that's what the complaint will be about.
Well, it does. it is a live issue. I know we were sort of like tagged onto a tweets, and it's very, you know, someone was sharing pictures of police cars being stuck, etc. We've seen a picture of an ambulance stuck on Old Bethnal Green Road. That the sort of like iconic sort of like image of livable streets is that bit in front of the Minerva estate, and then you see this ambulance stuck, and it is heating up. It is causing a lot of issues. It just seems like we need to get it right, and it's not all the information is there. And the other aspect that I've picked up is sort of like ASB. So just looking at Bethnal Green was the first place where they actually implemented livable streets on a sort of like wide scale. And the feedback I'm getting from residents, just looking at social media and just talking to people who live there, that they haven't thought out the ASB issue. So one is it's very difficult for police to get there. They've become areas for massive congregation, and the police had to use their dispersal powers quite frequently in those areas. So there's been a letter that was sent to the mayor of Hackney about female residents not feeling safe. I'm just giving the facts. So a lot of residents have written. I know I've received messages, and I know the Labour MP Rupert Hock made the same points as well, and that's to do with Ealing, where it's been implemented. So there seems like there's all these issues that are coming up, but it's just Tower Hamlets Council seems to be just pushing ahead, sort of ish. What's your take on it? Why are they so determined on this? I just don't get it, to be honest.
No, so I mean, so what the call-in was basically suggesting is, in terms of the emergency services, is the use of lockable gates. So we're not sort of saying don't close the roads. It's somebody saying, rather than putting these big fixed planters in, is put in some kind of gate or mechanism that, you know, the fire brigade or somebody else can kind of unlock. It's also very clear from the emergency services responsible, they really like bus gates because they can just go straight through at speed. So, you know, basically, I think the advice from them is you know, not to have livable streets, but when you close roads, either have lockable gates, which they can then open in emergency, or use bus gates more. And what we know from the bus gates in Wapping and also in Blackwall Way is they also generate a lot of money. Which means that these things, rather than costing £24 million, could be self-funding. And given that we've got, you know, lots of other calls on our money, I'm not sure that £24 million is the best way of spending that money, especially if, you know, one or two more bus gates could solve some of those emergency services issues and also then help pay for the whole programme. But you can still close roads as long as they have lockable gates. Yeah.
So we're continuing with our tribunal. So we did the Wapping bit. Now we're moving into Bethnal Green, where a lot of the discussion is. So Andrew, if I'm correct, it's going to be next Wednesday. Is it that we're going to have our tribunal, and you're going to push out the link, and we'll push out the link. And what are the things you're looking for? Because Bethnal Green seems to be where it all happened, or where they're fortunate or unfortunate, given your perspective on the debate, to be the residents who've had livable streets put onto them. What other things are you looking when listening to residents' concerns when we go there?
We're trying to find out what, you know, residents' experiences of these are, to basically try and improve the programme. And that's basically what the intention of this process is. It's not to stop livable streets, because actually we've been changing streets, you know, for decades, but we need to do it in a way that listens to people and listens to their concerns. And in the Wapping one, we actually had an ambulance driver sort of speak. And that for me was quite powerful. And then reading the FOI and then seeing all of the social media about ambulances and not just getting stuck in the mud, but turning around or having to sort of go round really slowly on the pavement. You know, so for me, I've learned a lot about ambulance operations in the last couple of weeks. And that's what the purpose of these sessions is to listen to residents, to find out how it's working, what the issues are and what we can do to mitigate them.
So join us next Wednesday. Residents in Bethnal Green, particularly Wednesday 7 p.m. Book that date and time. Come along, tell us your experiences, and also what lessons can be learned and how these schemes could be improved. I don't think anyone is denying climate change or anyone's denying the problem with air pollution. I think what the issue is that it seems that the debate is not including all perspectives and all voices. It seems to be very exclusive or sort of I know what's best kind of approach, which is a bit bizarre because I think people who live on those streets know what's good for those streets because you actually have an everyday experience of being there. But that's with livable streets. But we're gonna go to a break. After the break, we're going to talk about growing Tower Hamlets. So Tower Hamlets is going to be expanding. Andrew did a post about Brooklyn and Manhattan, kind of with all these like models of skyscrapers. So join us after the break where we talk about the projected development in Tower Hamlets. So I just want to give you a image. The E14 postcode area is projected to have 250,000 residents. So just imagine that. So join us after the break where we will basically talk about the development, the 50,000 extra residential homes in Tower Hamlets or even more. So join us after the break.